Holy City Center Radio is episode 144, and I'm your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Monday, July 10th, 2023. The weekend is over, sadly. I hope you all had a good one. I hope yours was more memorable and better than mine. Still struggling with this weird summer cold. I've had it for over a week now. It started as just kind of stuffiness, I thought maybe, it's just allergies, even though my dad, when he was here, was coughing and feeling kind of crappy for a couple days. But no, I've caught whatever he had, I guess. Um, Although what I didn't have this horrible cough like he did, but I don't know what's going on. Still a little stuffy. And for whatever reason, it's gotten worse over the last couple days. I now have like a wheeze if I breathe in, kind of heavily or breathe out heavily. It's very, very noticeable. So not sure what is going on, but not super enjoyable. But all things considered, it's not so bad. It could be a lot worse. Here's hoping this is the end of it, whatever it is. But apologies if I sound a little yucky, or you hear some wheezing or some throat clears, even though I know Cole Collins with LMC Sound System will do a pretty good job of editing it all out. But yeah, it's been a struggle here all weekend, just trying to lay low. So no fun things for me this weekend, but that's okay. After having the family here for a while, it's all right to just kind of lay low and not do too much. In other Holy City Center news this weekend, actually prior to the weekend, Instagram launched their new venture called Threads, which is aiming to be a Twitter killer. And if what I'm seeing online is accurate, it is doing a pretty good job of that so far. Yes, I'm on Threads. You can find me there at Holy City Center. I'm not really posting a lot there yet. It's only from what I've been able to tell, and I'll be honest, I haven't done a deep dive on it. It appears it's only available via an app. So for me, using Twitter, I use a program called TweetDeck, which helps me schedule tweets. Since I'm sharing news, I like to spread things out. If I could only share when I'm right in front of the app, things would be clustered together. I just feel like spacing things out is always a little bit better. And when it comes to posts that I've done myself on Holy City Center, I like to share those a couple times throughout the week. And so scheduling tweets, that is, has been really big for me and helpful. And I would hate to get away from that. And Threads just doesn't allow it. So I'm not using it a lot yet as I try to navigate what I want to do. And Twitter, I'm still using it. I took a little bit of a break this weekend. Granted, I still had stuff scheduled and still posted stuff, but I was nowhere near as active as I normally am, especially since I was, home all weekend. So we'll see what happens. I would love for a new Twitter-like app to come along and destroy Twitter if Twitter is not going to revert back to what it used to be. There's just been a lot of changes since Elon Musk took over that are horrible. It used to be a great place to go and get reliable information. Yes, of course, there's always misinformation out there, but it used to prioritize, what was popular, and in a way it still does, but you could tell by the blue check mark if this was someone who, was a celebrity, of course, but more importantly, if they worked for a legitimate news organization, whether they were local or national. And so you could at least have an idea that what they were tweeting was probably accurate and trustworthy. We know people make mistakes all the time, but once they did away with that whole blue checkmark thing and anyone can just purchase one, now you have no idea. You're like, okay, is this random person an actual reporter that I'm looking at? Or are they just some schmuck who is posting something that isn't true? And then you have to click on their profile, and it's it's different. It's more cumbersome. Not to mention all the other changes like reinstating people who had been suspended, which, no surprise, hate speech, racial slurs, attacks against the LGBTQ community, and so on and so forth have just been nonstop since he took over. And misinformation is spreading more and more now. And of course, anyone who buys a blue check mark, for the most part, are fans of Elon or have certain political leadings. And so now with that blue check mark, they are getting priority over anybody else. And so you're seeing them elevated, these stupid and horrible tweets. So anyway, I'm not going to rant more than I already have. So just hoping something takes over where accurate information is prioritized, and for important events like here in Charleston, like hurricanes, it's important to be able to get timely, accurate information, and Twitter is showing that it's not super reliable for that anymore in any capacity, but especially not during an emergency. So in any event, that's about the excitement of my weekend, was Threads posting a couple times and seeing everybody gleefully join, and watching as Twitter's usage went way down over the last few days. We'll see what happens there. Still on both platforms, still scheduling tweets on Twitter, so mostly active on there. The other side note is that TweetDeck is soon going to charge. If you want to keep it, you're going to have Twitter Blue. So I'll have to buy a blue check mark if I want to keep it. So you may see me with the check mark, which unfortunately has become not something to celebrate on the platform. But we'll see if I can find a better platform, whether that's Threads or something else, or if I can find a third-party app similar to TweetDeck that can do the same things. But at the same time, I also don't want to spend like $30 a month on a program just because it's a little bit better than TweetDeck, and I don't have to buy the blue check mark when the check mark's only like, what, $8 a month? It would just be silly to do that as some kind of anti-Elon thing. So we'll see what happens there. But enough about me and my boring weekend of being sick, and let's move on to the news. The state newspaper, and by the way, all their articles they share on like Yahoo and AOL. So if you don't have a subscription, you can always search the headline and find their articles for free on those platforms. But they did an article about arrests that have happened that involve South Carolina law enforcement officers, and they found that so far this year, 12 people, which includes officers, guards, and one 911 operator, have been charged with crimes and fired or suspended from their jobs after investigations by SLED. SLED, of course, the state law enforcement division. Of the allegations of those 12 people, they include things like punching inmates, improperly handling cases, heroin possession, assault and battery, and criminal sexual conduct. Some were alleged to have taken place while on duty. Others involved their work as public servants. And some others, their arrests occurred in the course of their private lives. And in one instance, the charges against one officer have been dropped. The number of public servants charged by SLED for the first months of 2023 is less than in previous years, though, believe it or not. There were 15 charged in the first part of 2022 and 19 in the second part. Meanwhile, in 2021, 15 were also charged between January and June, while 19, again, was kind of weird that it was 12 and 19 for both of the previous years. But yes, 19 in the 6 months afterwards. So the good news, less people in public service, specifically as it relates to law enforcement, have been arrested so far at the beginning of 2023. The bad news, we're still in double digits, and that's not a great record. But if you want more details, hit the link in the show notes. You can see the details of each arrest that have happened so far this year. Do you remember that man a few months ago that led local law enforcement agencies on a 4-day manhunt before ultimately being captured in Berkeley County? It happened back in May. If it doesn't ring a bell, definitely go do a Google search or something like that to get caught up on the story. But I mean, that's the gist of it. Well, for those of you who do remember, that slippery little bastard has escaped from a Pennsylvania jail. Yes, he is on the run again. The man, whose name is Michael Burham, escaped from the Warren County Jail in Pennsylvania around 11:20 p.m. on Thursday, this according to the Warren Police Department. Law enforcement says that he used bed sheets and exercise equipment to escape from the recreation area of the jail. At the time, he was not restrained, and officials say he was able to make it to the ground from the roof by using just those items. A spokesperson for Warren County said that authorities noticed he was gone almost immediately and that he was under video surveillance, but it's not clear if guards were present at the time of the escape. So again, this guy is on the run again, finds a way to get out of this jail, and despite being under video surveillance, somehow this is all missed. And even though they say they noticed almost right away that he was missing, they didn't find him, which is bizarre. But in any event, Burham was in the jail for less than 3 months, and a former long-term Charleston County sheriff Al Cannon, you may remember his name. He previously served as sheriff before Kristen Graziano, and of course, the jail is named after him. He says that that could be plenty of time for him to figure out, patterns and plot his escape. So he weighed in on this Live 5 article saying that, yeah, even though we all may be listening to this, like, what the hell? Like, yeah, it makes sense at the type of jail he was at. It's not like maximum security or anything like that. Burham, who is 34, if you don't remember, is facing federal charges after he was wanted in several states for his alleged involvement in the rape and unlawful imprisonment of a woman in Jamestown, New York. He was also wanted for allegedly kidnapping two victims at gunpoint from Sheffield, Pennsylvania, and forcing them to drive to North Charleston. And that's where the adventure picked up here in this state, where ultimately he was captured in Hugie. So a wild story back then, and it gets more wild as he is back on the run. No word on any sightings or anything like that, although admittedly, I'm not checking Pennsylvania news very often, so I do know he has yet to be captured as of this recording, but hopefully they will find him soon because, all jokes aside about him escaping jail and everything, the crimes he's alleged to be involved with are horrible, and if those accusations are true, he absolutely needs to be in jail and needs to be back there ASAP. Disability rights advocates here in South Carolina say they have been ringing the alarm for years about what they describe as appalling conditions in adult care homes. And now the U.S. Department of Justice says South Carolina is likely violating federal law by not doing enough to avoid unnecessarily institutionalizing adults with serious mental illness. Live 5 News had a report featuring a complaint that sparked a federal investigation at the beginning of 2022 into whether South Carolina unnecessarily segregates individuals with serious mental illness in adult care homes. In a 23-page report that was released on Thursday, the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division concluded there is reasonable cause to believe South Carolina is in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. The investigation focused on South Carolina's community residential care facilities, which their abbreviation, if you've seen it out there, is CRCF. They're also known as adult care homes. It details about 2,000 adults with serious mental illness that are living in them, and found both private and state run facilities restrict these adults' independence and choice. The state provided what DOJ called exceptional assistance, cooperation, and candor throughout the investigation, and it looks forward to working together in a search for a resolution. But the report stated that if that does not happen, the federal government could take further action up to and including potentially suing the state. So, we've talked about mental health issues periodically on this podcast, and I have previously, on social media and the website and all that. And sadly, I'm not surprised to hear that the state may not be treating adults with mental illness appropriately. I'm sure the same could be said for children with mental illness. So, although sad and somewhat shocking to see it in the news, it also really isn't that shocking when you stop and think about, some of the headlines we've seen, and not just regarding these specific instances with these adult care homes, but in our justice system, with inmates who have faced horrific conditions and not getting the help they need in our jails, and many other instances throughout this state. So again, although, still a little surprising to see these things in the news, at the same time, it kind of isn't, as our faith in South Carolina to do the right thing in regards to mental illness. I would say our expectations are not very high. And lastly, a story that confused some, including myself, when I originally saw the headlines about Carowinds having a roller coaster that was stopped because crack was found in it. Check that. It wasn't drugs. It was a crack, a very large one at that, found in one of the support columns of a roller coaster at Carowinds. So, that confusion aside, here's the latest on that. So first, some good news for Carowinds, at least. They will not be fined as they shut down the Fury 325 roller coaster once its certificate of operation was suspended. So the North Carolina Department of Labor has said they will not fine the amusement park because they did shut down the ride once they discovered this crack in the support column. It obviously remains shut down as of this recording, as it awaits a new support column to be delivered at some point this week. The North Carolina Department of Labor has been on the ground for days after seeing the video. If you haven't seen it, it is somewhat shocking to see this very noticeable crack in a support column pretty high up, or it seems high up in the video anyway. And then seeing as the roller coaster comes around that the column where the crack is basically split all the way through. It appears that way anyway, and you can just see it shift apart. And it appears, thankfully, that although it looks bad, there was no real danger at that moment, but easily could have become extremely dangerous if allowed to continue. In a statement, Carowinds says workers inspect the roller coaster daily, but once it's repaired, they will use a drone to check the ride's more hard to reach areas to ensure something like this doesn't happen again. A spokesperson for the amusement park also said that the new support column will be not just delivered this week, but also installed, and then they will run the ride about 500 times before a third party in the state comes in to inspect it for safety. So once it's installed, a ton of times that roller coaster will be run just to without people in it, of course, to ensure that the new support column is in place and sturdy. They're going to do better inspections to ensure that if something like this happens again, they'll discover it more quickly. Because if you haven't been paying attention, the only reason the park found out about it is because a patron showed them video. He was in the park, saw the crack, took some video with his phone, and then showed the amusement park, hey, this seems pretty dangerous, before they finally shut it down. So the good news is no one was hurt. They discovered this with the help of someone in the park. They're going to get it fixed. And if you want to go to Carowinds, it seems like they're going to take even extra precautions to ensure your safety if you decide to do it. I'm not a roller coaster rider, so you will not see me at Carowinds anytime soon. And especially after this incident, nope, not for me. Thank you very much, though. That'll do it for this edition of Holy City Center Radio. I hope you have a good start to your week. I will talk to you again on Wednesday. A big thank you to Cole Collins with LMC Sound System for producing this and every episode of Holy City Center Radio, and Tyler Boone, whose music you hear in each and every episode as well. If you want to help out, go to patreon.com/Holy City Center to sign up for one of those support tiers, or you can pick up some merchandise at holycitycenter.com/shop. Another free and great way to help out is to just like this podcast or rate it, leave a review. Any of those free things you can do on your streaming platform also help out Holy City Center Radio. As I mentioned, I'll talk to you all again on Wednesday. Hopefully I'll be feeling and sounding better when that happens. But until then, good night and good luck.